Sabres fall in Montreal, but a chance to get right back at it against the Red Wings, looking to ascend in the Atlantic Division. We'll talk about the state of the division and some new players into the lineup for Buffalo coming up here in the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, you everydayers, and welcome into the Locked On Sabres podcast here on this Wednesday. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. You can watch the show on YouTube. You can become a part of our Locked On Sabres text club if you're not already. You can go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres to do that. And you can hit us up and get some lineup news, some updates when players get recalled or talk throughout the games, or maybe you get the first crack at our bet of the night, which continues to win 4-1-1 on the year, plus 9.2 units. Got more on that coming up a little bit later on today's show. Sneaky Joe DiBiase. Today's episode presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. We'll go through the Sabres' loss in Montreal today. We'll take a look at the upcoming matchup against the Red Wings. But beyond that, Noah Ostlund going into the lineup, Colten Ellis going in between the pipes, as UPL goes down to Rochester for conditioning assignment. He'll get a start or two down with the Amherst, which means he's getting very, very close, which means we are getting close to the Sabres arriving at a 3-goaltender situation, and maybe Colten Ellis is playing for a job tonight. If he were to be waived, he'd have to be waived, by the way. They send him to Rochester. I would probably expect that St. Louis would grab him back after losing him to the Sabres on waivers a couple of weeks ago. So big game for him. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later on today's show. If you want to reach out to the show, Text Club, always the best way to do it. But if you want to follow us on Twitter, at Locked On Sabres is a good place to do that as well. Was reading through some of those when the Sabres fell in Montreal the other night. And we'll start with that. I got a couple things that we heard from Lindy Ruff on with me and Jeremy White on WGR this morning that I'm going to get to as well. But the Sabres fall 4-2 to the Canadiens. They fall to 2-4 on the season. I kind of want to start with a take on the game that isn't even directed right at the Sabres, but anybody else watch that game on Monday night and think, Montreal, they look real impressive? Because to me, I don't think the Sabres played a very bad game. They once again got off to a very poor start. And that is the fourth time in 6 games that we've really seen that happen to the Sabres. And that is one of those things that I did press Lindy Ruff about today. Like, do you feel like this is already a trend? And he agreed that it is. It's something they focused on a lot last year. Because remember, 2 years ago, under Don Granato, it was as bad as you can possibly imagine. I mean, games were over sometimes 5 minutes in. This year, it's not as bad as that. They're not down 4-0 after 5 minutes, which I can remember some games like that a couple of years ago. But they are getting outplayed early on in these games, and I thought this game was another example of that, where the opening bell rang and Montreal looked faster, looked more skilled. They looked like they were bees buzzing around the Sabres, who are just slow. And so it was King Kong swatting at the airplanes as they passed by him. They really couldn't get a handle on Montreal. I had a buddy text me like, they really need to get more physical here to kind of, bump them off pucks. And I'm like, I don't think they could catch him right now. Montreal just is so fast, so young, so skilled. Lane Hudson is so impressive. Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Yurov Slavkovsky, who scores in this game. They got so much good young talent that I watched that game. And, the Sabres, I thought, played fine. And I think they really got it to a place where it felt like the game could have gone either way. That's how I feel. I feel like that game could have gone either way. But I saw a Montreal team that I think is going to make the playoffs again for the second consecutive year. At the moment, I would think they're going to remain in the top 3 like they are right now, tied atop the division, 10 points with Detroit, 5-2 record so far this year. I think right now they're going to finish in the top 3, and I could see them winning a round or two. Really. I like around maybe is probably more likely, because if they were to somehow win the division, avoid a Florida, you could win around that way. I don't think they would probably win a series against a healthy Panthers team. But I think the Canadiens look really, really impressive. So in this game, again, Sabres get off to a slow start. Thought they played well after that. I thought Jiri Kulich had his best game of the year. I'm not just saying that because he scored a goal and because I told you to bet him. He was my bet of the night. But I do think he was skating a lot. I thought he was getting a lot of scoring chances. He was using his shot. He actually fed guys a lot. Zach Benson, 7 shots in this game. Zach Benson never has 7 shots in a game, but those were some of the opportunities that were being generated by that line. I thought the Kulich-Benson combo looked really good. Tage was a little up and down. I thought this might have been Tage's worst game, which was fine. Like he still is going to give you chances, but there were some bad turnovers in this game from Tage Thompson. I thought he was a little sloppy with the puck, and maybe he was trying to do too much at times. I wonder if he's just trying to do that in general right now, and I would actually empathize with why he would feel that way. And it's not like he's playing poorly. I think he's been fine. 4 points in 6 games. I think he's been pretty good in his own end. He's played center. He's played wing. I think he's looked good at both. But 1 goal in 6 games, and not to be too nitpicky, but the goal he scored, I mean, it's a wrist shot from way out at the point without any of your teammates in front of the net. You can't really trust that goal to go in very often throughout the year. We don't have the big bomb one-timer goal yet this year. We don't have the Thompson dancing through the defense highlight reel goal yet this year. We don't have him walking in on a rush and beating a goalie clean with a wrist shot yet this year. Like, those goals have actually yet to come. Maybe that's impressive. The Sabres have actually even had a pretty good 3-game stretch here play-wise without him doing that. So I'd like to see him step up in that front. It's not the reason I would say he didn't have his best game. It would be more because I didn't like some of those turnovers that he had. So little evaluation on Tage, I thought, from that game. Another game where Mattias Samuelsson looked really impressive. I think he's looked great this year. He looks more physical. He's using his size to his advantage. He actually had a nice play in this game where he almost did a goal all by himself, which I'm not sure I've ever seen from him, where he forced the turnover at center ice. He walked in, waited for a guy to go to the net. He took a wrist shot, threw it right in the breadbasket. So, that's why he's not going to be much of a goal scorer in his career. But I thought another really strong game from Mattias Samuelsson. And really all the way around, you look at some of the stats in this game. Shots, again, like a lot of it was even. Shots were 32-31. 32-31. Most of the game was played at 5-on-5. You only had 1 power play opportunity for each side. So not really a game to evaluate the penalty kill or the power play. There just wasn't really enough chance for that. At 5-on-5, again, shots at 5-on-5 were 27-26. That was in favor of Montreal. But the Sabres were ahead on a lot of the other categories. Shot attempts, 58-52 in favor of Buffalo. Scoring chances, 36-28 in favor of the Sabres. High danger chances were 17-14. You get an empty net goal that goes in, and it makes it look like a 2-goal game. But I thought this was a very evenly matched hockey game after the first really 10 minutes of play. And I think you play that game 10 times, Sabres going to win 5 of them. And I think it's a good Montreal team. So I'm not going to crush them for losing on the road in Montreal against a team that I think is really good. Depends what you think of the Canadiens. If you want to be a little bit more patient and not just crown the Habs as one of the good teams of the Eastern Conference, I think that's also fair, right? Like, do it for more than 7 games. Because last year they were a fine team. They were good, but they were not a great team. And I think they're a great team, but I would understand why someone didn't want to give them that after only 7 games. So I thought it was a fine effort from the Buffalo Sabres. They're going to have a lot of games like that, and you hope you come out on the right side of a little more than half of those really close games. So those were some of my thoughts on the Sabres game in Montreal. By the way, one other thing about Tage, credit to him. Again, I have no questions about Tage on this front, nor should anybody else, but Dahlin is getting jabbed in the back of the net. And he's doing his thing, right? Dahlin's being physical, and he is really annoying to play against. Teams hate playing against him. He is, Brad Marchand has his big night last night in Boston. Dahlin's becoming like the Brad Marchand of the blue line, isn't he? I mean, I don't see any other defenseman in the league that teams go after as much as they go after him. He is just under your skin all night. He's not licking you like Brad Marchand was. Like, so it's not to that level, but I don't see teams going after Cale Makar like that. I don't see teams going after Quinn Hughes like that, or Victor Hedman, or Erik Karlsson in his prime. Like, Dahlin's got an extra little ability to really rattle you, which I love. So that's happening. He does that. Montreal's going after him, and Tage Thompson flies into the rescue, drops his gloves. He starts swinging. He actually hit Dahlin on one of those, so maybe he wants to be a little bit more careful with where he's firing those punches. But like we pointed out, we talk about it when the Sabres don't respond to things like that. I want to be sure all year to kind of point out when they do. And this is the guy. This guy, it has never been a question. It's maybe why you're even more frustrated last year when his head got taken off and no one came to his defense, is that Tage Thompson, for basically his entire career, has never even had to think about it. If he sees one of his best players, or really any of his teammates, getting jumped, he is right in there and he is acting. So credit to Tage in that moment. Again, the little things. One more little rant before we move on to get to what's upcoming. Mason Geertsen, can we please stop with this? When I previewed the game, I made a mistake. Like, I assumed Noah Ostlund was going to be in the lineup on the fourth line because they had recalled him and not anybody else. And it was Geertsen again in the lineup doing nothing. It's a 10 forward lineup. He doesn't play. And when he does play, he's a complete non-factor. 5 minutes and 27 seconds of ice time in this game, 7 shifts, and no threat of physicality because he can't catch the defenseman. No threat of a fight, and you wouldn't want to fire up the road crowd anyway. No threat of nothing. I don't get it. I don't know why he is in the lineup at all. I would take any other Rochester American. Not even gonna lie. Let me pull up the Amerks roster. Let me see if I can find. I will find the deepest pull and tell you I would rather have them. The Jacksonville Icemen might be a better team to look through here. Because I can't stomach him being in the lineup anymore. I hope it's finally over, and we'll get to why it might actually be over. Maybe there's a chance that he's played his final game with the Buffalo Sabres. How about Jagger Joshua in? Put him in. Left winger, where's number 8 for the Rochester Amerks? Put him in. Riley Fiddler Schultz in. Graham Slaggert, fine. Isak Rosen, definitely. Olivier Nadeau, please. Anton Wahlberg. Where's that guy? Where is Anton Wahlberg? Is nothing crazy. He's a second-round pick prospect who's been in the American League for a couple of years, but a lot of fans are interested in him. A lot of fans like the idea of him. He did well at the World Juniors. He had a good year in Rochester last year. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. He's a bottom 6, all-around type of player. Why not get a look at him? You've had the perfect opportunity with Jordan Greenway out. You've had now with Beck Malenstein out. Hey, you need a fourth liner. You need a big body. You need a guy that maybe can take a shift or two on the penalty kill. You need a guy that can kind of, maybe take some face-offs. Here you go. Try it. See if it works. It can't be worse than what Geertsen's doing, but he continues to just infiltrate the lineup. I don't get it. All right, when we come back, we'll move on to the game against Detroit. But more than that, the 2 players that are going into the lineup that I am very much looking forward to seeing, just out of curiosity and also hope for at least one of them. Colten Ellis and Noah Ostlund. When we come back here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Stay tuned a little bit later on today for my FanDuel bet of the night. We have a very good record on the season, so excited to get to that. Tonight's Sabres game against the Red Wings, all your odds courtesy of FanDuel. Of course, the NFL season is here as well, and we are nearing the midpoint, and FanDuel is an offer that you don't want to miss that you could use on the NFL, you can use on college football, hockey, World Series if you want. Right now, new customers bet just $5 and you get $300 in bonus bets if you win. So all you got to do is you scroll through, find something you like. Maybe it's a futures bet. Maybe it's something for that night. Maybe you want to get it over with. You just like the offer and you want that money or you want that bet in your account. So you can go for team to record the first shot on goal in this game. Maybe just there you go. You're going, well, you want to know quick Buffalo to record the first shot on goal. That's available to you. I mean, FanDuel's got anything if you want to look for it. It makes watching these hockey games, football, so much more exciting when you got something riding on the action. So again, that $5 bonus bet, if it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. Use all across the app. Unlock it. Go to the app or the site. Put your $5 bet in. If you're new, you win it, $300 in bonus bets. Check it out at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel app today to get started. Back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, Sabres and Red Wings tonight. Detroit actually number 1 in the Atlantic Division. Same amount of points as Montreal with 10, but they have played one fewer game. They are off to a roaring start. I'll get to more on them in a moment. But to me, the biggest story about tonight is that we are going to see a new goaltender, and we are going to see a guy making his NHL debut in Colten Ellis. He is who I am locked in on for tonight's game. I kind of want to split the duties there, though, between Ellis and Noah Ostlund. But on Ellis, he's been sitting on the bench as the backup through these first 6 games. Alex Lyon has been keeping the net, and he's been playing at a level to which he should keep the net, but obviously, they want to keep him healthy, and they don't want to ride him into the ground. So you got a bunch of games here in a row, 4 games in 6 days. Get the backup a nod, especially since UPL's going to Rochester. And listen, my fingers are crossed that he's going to get through that healthy, look good, get called up, and get back into the rotation and play well. But the last time he was on the ice, they thought he was ready to go. They thought a conditioning preseason game was right for him, and then he got hurt in the first period, and we haven't seen him since. So there's no telling really what UPL's health status might become. It's getting better, but we're still not really sure. Ellis has got to play at some point, and I do kind of like the spot that the Sabres picked. They get an off day. You know, one thing about if they had waited to play him against Toronto, you would get either a weird environment on Friday where you get a lot of Toronto fans. I'm still going back and forth whether that's actually going to happen because it actually coincides with Game 1 of the World Series against the Toronto Blue Jays. So you might not want him in that environment. You don't want him to play a back-to-back in Toronto because I don't think you want him in front of a team that just played the night before, knowing full well Toronto also would have played the night before. I think this is a good spot. You put him in at home Tuesday night, Detroit, or Wednesday night, excuse me. You get him in against Detroit, who I know they're 5-1. I know they have 10 points. I might do this every year with the Red Wings. To be fair, I've been kind of right every single year, in part because they have the 4th longest playoff drought in NHL history. So if you had been doing this with the Sabres for the last 14 years, you'd look smart. If you've been doing this with the Red Wings for the last 9 years, you'd look smart. I'll believe it when I see it. That roster has not had a lot of changeover in the last 3-4 years. And every year they seem to have this little bit of a hot run. And I'm just not ever inclined to believe that it's real. And this year, I kind of want to say the same. And every year, whenever they are around this territory, there are often different numbers that point to, they're not really dominating teams. They're getting results, but they're not really dominating teams. I mean, it's a lot of one-score hockey games so far. I've already kind of skipped ahead to Detroit as a team, and I'll get to more on them, but I just don't think they're a perfect team. I think Ellis going in against them is the right move, and I'm optimistic that he could actually be an NHL goaltender. I like the idea more than when Alex Georgiev was here. In his AHL career, 64 games played, a .919 save percentage. If you care about his goals against average, I think that's a little bit more of a really bad stat to track goalies. But if you care, 2.82, under 3 goals a game. He's been a good AHL goaltender. Even great, honestly, a great AHL goaltender in the last couple of years. He was not a out-of-nowhere prospect. He was a 3rd-round pick. The Blues had been homegrowing him, and they just never had a spot because Jordan Binnington and Joel Hofer have been 2 pretty good veteran goaltenders. So he's never really had an opportunity. Doesn't mean it has to work. A lot of these guys just become AHL guys. That happens. Eric Comrie is maybe one of these guys where, hey, I've got some reason to believe there's more here, and maybe there isn't. On the other hand, Alex Lyon was a minor league goaltender for a long time, had good minor league success, and finally, after years and years, got a crack at it in the NHL. And ever since he kind of regularly got in with Florida, He's been a regular NHL goaltender, and I don't see that going back anytime soon. I mean, right now he's the Sabres number one. So here's the hoping Ellis is the next version of that. We'll see what he looks like stylistically. I'm not really too familiar with his game as a goaltender compared to other goaltenders. I know he's a little bit of a undersized guy at what is he, 6 foot exactly? Yeah, a Colten Ellis size exactly is 6'1", 185. So he's not a monster in the net. He's not Luukkonen at 6'5". He actually might look a little bit more like, Lion size wise. Number 92, by the way. Love that for a goaltender. Love that as a number for a goaltender. The other name I want to talk about here briefly is Noah Ostlund, who is going to be the third line center for tonight's game. Perfect spot. I didn't want to see him go into the lineup on the fourth line. I wanted to see him with a little bit more skill. And I think he's getting that, especially in Jason Zucker. I like that he has Jason Zucker on his line for this game. Jack Quinn, I think, has been maybe the worst Sabre on the year. In theory, he's a goal scorer. Maybe that helps Ostlund too. I'm not too optimistic about him helping Ostlund, but I think Zucker is good for that. So a skilled line that you hope is going to get a lot of offensive zone starts. And I'll reach back years on this guy. Like, he's the first round pick from the Jack Eichel trade. So it's been a long road of hope for Ostlund, like a long road of development. These guys sometimes take years and years to get here, and he is one of those examples. But it might have been 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when we used to have Hadi Kalakash on from Locked On NHL Prospects. And he was watching all these guys and studying all the tape or whatever. And this is right when Jiri Kulich, Matthew Savoie, and Noah Ostlund were all just developing after the Sabres drafted him. And Hadi, I remember Kulich was like a guy that developed quickly. Like, wow, look how good he looks in the AHL. Man, this guy way better than we thought for a 20th overall pick. So he was getting headlines. And Savoie was a top 10 pick. So it was like, well, he's supposed to be the best one. So top 10 pick, I thought he looked like Danny Briere. And it's like, all right, we like him. Ostlund kind of fell under the radar because he goes back to Europe, goes back to Sweden, and we kind of forget about him. But Hadi, I remember saying on our show multiple times over those years, said that he thought this guy was going to be the best of the three. That Ostlund, like, you watch, by the time these guys are all in the primes of their NHL careers, Ostlund's going to be the best of the three. And at the moment, maybe you could actually argue that right now against Matthew Savoie. Although Savoie has been playing a little bit in Edmonton this year, but he's only got 1 point in 7 games. Kulich, meanwhile, not off to the best start. You hope that turns around. I'm hoping Ostlund can be a guy that could be like a number 2 center in the future. And he was so good at the end of last year in Rochester that I've been wanting to see him up here, and I'm glad that we're going to get that chance tonight. I hope he plays more than like 8 minutes, which sometimes those young guys don't get involved too much. I like to see him play like 13, 14 minutes tonight. Probably that's about the top end that you'll see him. I can't imagine he played more than that. So keep an eye on him. Good passer, very smooth skater and stick handler. Shot leaves a little bit to be desired, I think, but that actually wasn't true as much in Rochester last year. He was scoring goals. So I always thought of him more as a playmaker, but I guess we'll see as he really gets his NHL career going here. When we come back, the rest of the lineup and my bet of the night for tonight, Sabres and Red Wings. I'm feeling good once again about what I got for you tonight. That's coming up here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres is presented by Rugiet. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress, I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it good to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment will ship discreetly straight to your front door. Process is fast, simple, and private. It's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit Rugiet.com, RUGIET/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. Again, it's Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL. Don't forget to use the code LockedOnNHL so they know that we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses, start making moves. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres is also presented by Monarch Money. To be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, investments, easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. So all your accounts, it's easy for tracking with your husband or your wife. It's eating out. Like it can really add up eating out. And when you're using Monarch, it's a lot easier to keep track of that and stay more responsible on it. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. 50. That's monarch.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Sabres and Red Wings tonight at KeyBank Center. 7:30 puck drop, by the way, because the game is on TNT. We already, if you're watching on YouTube, we showed you the game day lines for tonight. If you're listening along, what we're looking at for tonight, not much of a change. These are actually the lines I said they should do the other night, and they didn't. Jiri Kulich with Zach Benson and Tage Thompson. Ryan McLeod between Josh Doan and Alex Tuck. Noah Ostlund, as mentioned, with Jason Zucker and Jack Quinn. Love that line. Tyson Kozak at center, with Peyton Krebs on the left and Beck Malenstein on the right. Love that as a fourth line. Might actually be in the rotation now that there's no Mason Geertsen. On the blue line, one slight change. Byram and Dahlin, that remains. Owen Power with Connor Timmins. I think Connor Timmins has deserved a promotion. I like him for this game, and I like him to earn this. I think he's been skating well. I think he's looked good with the puck. His shot is big. Like, I kind of just like him overall. He's a big body. He's not super physical, but he's not getting pushed around out there. I can't really give you a part of his game I haven't liked so far. So he's been doing it with Samuelsson. He's getting a look here with Power. Maybe that's something that develops long-term. I mean, Samuelsson's been so good that maybe him and Kesselring are a thing. I would tend to think you don't do that. Kesselring comes back. You planned on him playing with Power. You just go to that. But just keep an eye on this pairing, because this could be something that could work, they could go to in the future. And then Zach Metza stays in the lineup, but he's going to be with Samuelsson tonight. And again, Samuelsson's played good. Because he's with Metza, I would try not to overplay that line, that pairing. Maybe you don't go more than 16 minutes on the night. Maybe you go down to 5 defensemen. At some point, you just rotate him through. So, like the blue line, and then Colten Ellis for tonight's game. The Red Wings, as I mentioned, coming into this game, they are not a great hockey team. I know they're number one in the standings, but it's very early. They do this a lot. Shot attempt percentage on the year, they rank 12th in the NHL. Shot share in the NHL, what percentage of the shots in a game do they get? They're 11th. Again, these aren't bad numbers. These are good. They're a little bit above average. Expected goals for percentage on the season, the Red Wings rank 11th. Again, fine, middle of the road, a little bit above average, even a good amount above average, when you're 10th, 11th. I think it's all gonna come back down to earth. And good start for John Gibson, right? Like, that's been fine. And that was their biggest offseason acquisition. If that holds up, then goalie can really kind of help them maintain this. But I'm looking at the top of the standings right now, and I think Montreal hanging around in that spot is way more likely than what we're going to get from Detroit. The odds kind of represent that for tonight's game. The Sabres are the home team. And sure, the home team is usually favored. They are not necessarily favored in this one. I never really know what to call them, because when both teams are in minus money, it's basically a pick 'em. But Sabres are minus 105 to win the game tonight. The Red Wings at minus 114. Over under 6.5 plus 106 for the over, minus 130 for the under. My bet of the night. All right, let's get to my bet of the night. I'm looking to go to 5-1-1, and I'm also looking to get into the plus 10 unit percentage already. So you know what that means, by the way. That would essentially mean that if you had bet $10 on all of my bets so far this year, you would be at 92 on the season. A couple of anytime goal bets hitting is usually how you're going to helps you get there. So for tonight's game, I'm looking all right, the Jiri Kulich odds they went back down after he scored the other night. So I took it. Plus 460, way too low for Jiri Kulich. Tonight he's at plus 360. Don't even mind that, but I wouldn't necessarily take that tonight. I'm looking around. I actually considered, because I'm just going to mark it down as a tie or a push if I decide not to take something. I thought I was going to get there. Because I'm like, Josh Doan at plus 275. No. The shot bets like Benson. No, he got 7 shots last game, but he typically doesn't get a lot of them. I found something that actually Jeremy White texted me about this bet because I hadn't even looked at goalies yet. The over under for tonight for Colten Ellis. The over is minus 132. When I looked a half hour ago, when I bet this, it was minus 120. So it's actually, get on it quick if you want it, because it's going the wrong direction. Over under 23.5 saves. I mean, it's such a low number. 23.5 saves. I actually like for tonight, juice it up and go to 25 plus. Get that bet into plus money. Plus 104. I don't want minus 130. I want to give me the plus money, plus 104, and he's got to get 25 or more saves. So a couple more saves than what they're asking. But listen, the Sabres this year, as I mentioned earlier, when you're looking at goalie prop bets, I don't want to factor in the power play. It's so unpredictable. You could get, the other night, the Sabres had 7 penalties called against. The last game, they get 1. It's so back and forth. You can't really rely on it. So I like to look at the 5-on-5 numbers for this. And the Sabres this year have allowed the 4th most shots per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Per 60 minutes of gameplay at 5-on-5, they've allowed the 4th most shots. I don't really know why that's happening. They're keeping them to the outside. Maybe teams just trying to get one through and fight it out in front of the net. And the Red Wings, they have not actually been pouring the shots on this year. They're 17th in that metric for shots for per 60. They're 17th. So they're middle of the pack. Sabres give up a lot. Not necessarily in quality, but I don't need quality. I just need 25 saves, however I get it. And I'm 29 shots on goal, and he allows 4, and I win? Come on. Too low a number. Too low a number, if you ask me. So I'm going Colten Ellis, 25 plus saves for tonight's game. Sabres and Red Wings. All right, enjoy it. Hopefully the Sabres get back to 3-4 on the year, because if they were to drop another one here, then that probably wouldn't feel great when you open up the standings tomorrow morning to see 2-5. I don't want to go to 2-5. I want to keep it at 3-4. That'll do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Again, you want to check out the text club. You're not already a member, you go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres. That's the place where you could sign up for that. And if you're looking for Locked On Fantasy Hockey, find that wherever you listen to your podcast. I love listening to them as the season gets rolling. And, of course, Locked On NHL Game Night. Find them on the Locked On NHL feed on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Talk to you tomorrow after Sabres and Red Wings here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.